Hello, welcome to the topic print culture and the modern world. Today, we are able to read and write so much as the concept which made us aware about so many things in the world. It is just because of the script, the books which are available in so many forms, the literature which is available to us. In this chapter, we are going to study the coming of the print culture. We will look at the development of print, the beginning of this expansion into Europe, spread from Asia. How did it impact the lives of the people? The spread of technology, impact on social lives. How does the change come about? It's all because of the print. The making of the book before introduction of print. It was totally manual. It's a map which is showing the arrival of the print culture from the East Asia to different parts. The wood blocks in China where the script or the printed material what has to be done that was first inscribed on the wood and then the impressions taken. This is how the wood blocks were made. So coming of print from the Asia spreading over to different parts of Europe and to the world, China, Japan, and moving to the rest of the world. This is horrifying image, but still the wood block printing was made like this. Different kinds of images were made, and then the impressions were taken. This is a script of wood block print. As the color came about, it meant very impactful and appealing. Religious and other messages were sent across. There's a skillful carpenter making the wood blocks. It's a very minutest work. People here engrossed in making the wooden blocks. So early text with the print culture. Now comes the religious book, the first Buddhist Diamond Sutra, the oldest Japanese book printed in AD 868. It contained 6 sheets of paper. It was a woodcut illustration, pictorial representation. This is an image of Diamond Sutra. The print in Japan, the Buddhist missionaries, the missionaries were the religious scholars. They were imbibing this knowledge and spreading across through the print culture in Japan from China around AD 768 to 770. The oldest book in Japan was the Buddhist Diamond Sutra. 6 sheets, woodcut illustrations. Pictures were printed in text on the playing cards, money. In the medieval period, the poets and the prose writers, they regularly published their works. Books were available cheap in price. Later, in the 18th century, the urban circles they depicted lot of urban pictures. The movement of the people to the cities and towns that depicted the change in their lifestyle, their eating habits, their food, their dress style, everything was shown. The libraries and the bookstores filled with various types of books, books for women on musical instruments, calculations, tea ceremonies, where people gathered and exchanged different informations on different subjects. Books on cooking, flower arrangement or ikebana, proper etiquette. Etiquette is the manners, and these all places and these all types of books enabled the people, enriched their liking for reading. This is how wood blocks were made. Example of different type of printing. So, how print technology reached in Europe? From 11th century onwards, paper from China traveled different parts of Europe through trade routes. We know that in silk routes, silk was not just the item of travel, there were other aspects of movement also, which enabled the movement of items, precious metals, stones, different spices, cotton, silk, other items, and also paper also traveled from one country to another. And it made the manuscripts carefully written by the scribes. Manuscripts, as it was written manually, and the writers were called as scribes. And these people, they were the ones who were writing. It was a very tedious job. And by the year 1295, Marco Polo, the great explorer, he reached Italy after many years of exploration in China. From China, he learned the technology of wood block print. He introduced this in Italy. From Italy, the wood block technology reached all parts of Europe. Johannes Gutenberg and his contribution to the printing press was immense. Before the printing press, it was very difficult to spread the knowledge. The books were written by hand. Also, they were very costly. Knowledge was a privilege for those who were wealthy and rich. Only they could get the books. But this has changed. The invention of printing press made it available to all the people, and Johannes Gutenberg of Germany has started all this in 1448. This is the man, and this is the mission. Bible, the first book to be printed. The printing press was has revolutionized the availability of books, and the speed at which it has traveled was enormous. The production of book in large numbers created a new culture of reading. Number of people who were reading have increased, and we can call it as reading mania. Number of readers was multiplying. Before, the availability of the script or the writings was on a parchment or the skin of animals, which was called as vellum. And also platen in letterpress printing. Platen is a board which is pressed on the back of the paper to get impression, and from this type the material was available. At one time it used to be a wooden board, later that was replaced by the metal, that is the steel. So the ballads, the historical account of folk tales in verse, the achievements of the great kings, the romantic stories, the fantastic achievements, the passionate lives, some kind of illusions, everything which people can imagine beyond their imagination also. Everything was presented with a song, with a dance form, with a historical account. At the taverns where people used to collect, gather there, drink alcohol, there also they used to meet their friends and exchange the news. The first printed book of this kind of printing technology developed in China, Japan, Korea, and these were handwritten. And from the AD 576 onwards, books in China were printed by rubbing paper against the inked surface of wood blocks. This is the accordion book. The traditional accordion book was folded and stitched. This we can see the writings here. So this is how the book was binded together. The beautiful art of writing is called as calligraphy, and they were skillful writers, and these skillful writers were called as scribes. They used to write accurately, perfectly. For a long time, China remained the producer of printed material. Further, there was a huge demand because the civil services examination was conducted, and lot of people who were contesting for the exam, they required the material. Apart from these scholars, even merchants also were using this printed material. Even rich women began to read and publish their poetry. They were the privileged, highly privileged ones. All did not have an opportunity to read and express themselves. Many were deprived. New reading culture was accompanied by new technology of Western printing techniques and mechanical presses. Shanghai became the hub or the center of new print technology. The print in Japan, the Buddhist missionaries who came from China, they introduced the hand printing technology into Japan around 768 to 770 AD. The oldest book we just saw, the Diamond Sutra, it was printed in the Buddhist. This image of the Diamond Sutra. Pictures were printed on textiles, on cloth, on playing cards, paper money. In the middle part of Japan, the poets and prose writers were regularly publishing their books, and they were available cheap. The print of visual material led to interesting publications. When people were able to see the images, they got fascinated. So we just saw the coming of the print into Europe. Marco Polo, who brought, and previously vellum or the skin of animals, the leather which was used to make the script available only to the rich and the privileged ones. Now the books are available to all kinds of people. So now what are the limitations of these manuscripts, handwritten scripts? Manuscripts, handwritten scripts could not satisfy the ever increasing demand. Number of readers were increasing, but copying the text was expensive. Finding such kind of skillful writers, calligraphists was difficult. It was laborious. It was very hard, tedious. They had to toil hard. It was time consuming, and manuscripts were fragile, very difficult to maintain, difficult to handle and carry around. Their circulation remained limited. Thus, there was a great need for quicker and cheaper production. Then came the printing press, which revolutionized. Johannes Gutenberg was the son of a merchant, grew on a large agricultural estate. He became the master goldsmith. He led the molds for making the trinkets, and he adopted this technology. These molds were used for pressing the grapes and extracting the wine. These molds were taken, and with these molds, he adopted the technology to invent a new innovation. This olive press provided the model for printing press. The molds were used for casting metal types of letters. He got the idea to manufacture the alphabets. The molds had different shapes. So with these kind of shapes, he was able to manufacture alphabets, and with many attempts, in 3 years of time, he was perfectly able. He was able to come out with the first book ever to be printed in the world, the Bible, the Holy Book, with 180 copies. It took 3 years to produce them. By the standards of the time, production became very fast at that time, comparatively 15th century, and this is the new technology. Johannes Gutenberg, the German inventor. By this new technology, it has revolutionized the printing technology, but it could not totally displace or replace the art of producing books by hand. They were skillful writers. They still had demand. The shift from hand print to mechanical print brought about the change. This shift is called as revolution. Anything which brings about a change is revolution, and that is the print culture. Johannes Gutenberg and his machine. This is Johannes Gutenberg and his machine. Printing press. The Bible. The print revolution, development of new ways of producing books, transformed the lives of the people, changed their relationship with the institutions and authorities. Now, people were influenced by popular perceptions. The thinkers, new section of thinkers, the socialists who opened up their ideology, their eyes were open, their mind is open to new ways of thinking. New reading public came into existence. There were debates, and there was fear that print will make a section of people who will be dissenting, who will be disagreeing with the society. There came the reading public. The new reading public emerged. The printing press reduced the cost and the labor. The time which was taken by the manuscript writers, the calligraphists, this has reduced dramatically. The time is less, the labor is less, even cost is less. Now the books started flooding the market. The common people live in the world of oral culture. They were listeners, those who cannot read. Others, those who were educated, they used to read the sacred text, the holy text to them, and they used to read to the ballads. And these ballads were reciting the folk tales, the achievements of the great kings, and they were new strategies, new methods of selling books. Books were coming in the form of periodicals, in the form of serialized important novels, which were coming as series week after week. People were waiting for the books. They were getting themselves attached to the characteristics of the people who were in that novel. They used to acquaint themselves with them. Now the series are available cheap. These cheap series were called as shilling series in England in 1920s. There were so many books which came out with cheap paper which was available, and people were able to read. The times of Great Depression was known to the people, how transformation took place in different kinds of the world, how the world changed, how the shares were sold, what is the country's backwardness, how unemployment was affected. This reading public has all brought about their knowledge because of the availability of the books. Common people now face the world, and they are well equipped, more knowledgeable, because if they are not able to read also, they are good listeners. As a result, the oral culture entered, and print and printed material was transforming. It was moving from one place to another. It was getting transmitted. Hearing public, reading public, all intermingled, and there came the revolution, the coming up of religious revolution, Martin Luther King, and the Protestant movement. We will read from here in the next topic, the Protestant movement. How did the religious debate start? we shall see. Thank you.